Across the Pod NFL podcast. It's time for another team season preview, and this time it's the Los Angeles Chargers. With us, we got a first-time guest on the podcast. Today with us is Chargers fan Lee Wakefield. First of all, Lee, how are you?
Yeah, I'm great, Andy. Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm really good. Really looking forward to this episode and getting into talking some Chargers.
Yeah, definitely. Looking forward to finding out, as we do with all our new guests, as to why people choose their team, especially in the UK. So, for you, Lee,
Mm.
what made you choose the Chargers?
So, a couple of factors really, but the biggest one when I started watching the NFL, just kind of browsing the channels really on Sky Sports, and just came across the NFL, and I just started watching it and kind of liked it, and just got more and more into it as obviously as the years go down. Didn't really like attach myself to a team straight away. Just more attach myself to a player. Just someone who jumped off the screen, who his athleticism and just play just kind of wowed me straight away, and that was LaDainian Tomlinson. Obviously coming in towards the back end of his Chargers career, maybe like 2006. This would have been when I started watching the game, and he just really jumped off the screen. And obviously then at the time had obviously the young quarterback Philip Rivers, and I kind of just latched myself onto those two players really. But yeah, it was LaDainian Tomlinson that, like I said, really grabbed me at first. And then obviously with the colours that the Chargers wear, I'm a Leeds United fan as well, so yellow, white, and blue kind of speaks to me in that sense as well. So these factors kind of came together. But yeah, it was LT. I always credit LT with the reason why I'm a Chargers fan more than anything really.
Do you think that maybe if you'd supported gotten to the NFL maybe the last few years, you may have gone down the 49ers route, maybe being a Leeds fan?
Yeah, I could do. Obviously, with the 49ers being in the NFC, kind of is okay to kind of keep an eye on their results as well. So I wouldn't say that I'm a 49ers fan or anything like that, because obviously you can only have one team really. But yeah, definitely kind of like hope the 49ers do well if the Chargers don't, or if they're not in the Super Bowl or something like that. Yeah.
So for me, I always say that my ideal Super Bowl is Dolphins against Bears because my favorite team's Dolphins, and
Mhm.
I do have a soft spot because I like Chicago and stuff like that. So for you, I'm guessing your ideal Super Bowl is Chargers Niners, right?
Yeah, it would be. It would be. And I've always been a big fan. This is before the 49ers involvement in Leeds. I've always been a big fan of Kyle Shanahan, his offense, things like that. So yeah, if you can, if you can make the way to the Super Bowl, and obviously the Chargers do as well, then yeah, you could say that'd be pretty perfect for sure.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So heading on to the off season, if I'm honest, I couldn't find many ins. So first of all, go for the outs. So it includes the likes of Nasir Adley to retirement,
Mm.
linebackers such as Drew Tranquil and Cal Van Noy and Toy Reader have all left, going to the Chiefs, Ravens, and Vikings respectively. Quarterback Chase Daniel has left as well as defensive end Christian Covington to the Lions, and receiver slash return specialist DeAndre Carter has gone to the
Mhm.
Raiders. And then as well as your re-signing the likes of tackle Trey Pipkins and your kicker Cameron Dicker and
Yeah.
receiver Guyton and Donald Parham tight end. You also got in Eric Kendricks from the Vikings. Now I couldn't find, unless I'm wrong here, Lee, many other ins via free agency. I know you took the likes of Quentin Johnson, receiver from TCU, 21st
Mhm.
overall. Other people such as Tuli Tulipoto, Washington State linebacker Diane Henley, 85th overall. But yeah, I just couldn't find many other ins of any note really. Have I missed anyone, Lee, or was it just been that quiet in the Chargers front office this off season?
Yeah, the free agency was very, very quiet. Obviously, take about 12 months. A lot of obviously free agency acquisitions, spending a lot of money in that off season. So yeah, this season as a kind of knock on effect was very quiet. Eric Kendrick, you're perfectly right. Obviously, was the I'll say I was going to say the big free agent acquisition, but I guess it's not really a big free agent acquisition. But yeah, apart from that sign, I would say maybe Nick Williams, the defensive tackle who was on the Giants last year, but it's like a depth rotational defensive lineman. So I don't think it's a biggie that you miss it, to be honest, off your list there. So yeah, no, it's been a quiet one. It's been a quiet one. Much more sort of influx coming through the draft, as you kind of mentioned there, and hoping that the this draft class and also last year's that we didn't really get a great deal from steps up and becomes the kind of new influx of talent on the team, I guess.
Yeah, and of course he took in Quentin Johnson. Now we all know that Keenan Allen is sort of he's getting on in age. He's definitely regressing in terms of
Mm.
productivity on the field. So you would assume that Quentin Johnson come in to to eventually be that replacement, be that number, or even be that number one. With Mike Williams hasn't
Mm.
yet had a go at being number one. He may not ever get to that. So I think you've got there your future wide receiver for the next potentially, hopefully, 5, 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the Chargers wide receiver in this season is actually looking in really good shape. Obviously, you've got Keenan Allen. We all know what he is. Obviously, great route runner. Obviously, the veteran in the room, Mike Williams. Again, you know what he is. He's seasoned in the league. You know he's going to go out win the jump balls. And then obviously got a couple of young guys outside of that. You know, Josh Palmer, who showed himself last year in the absence of both those two veterans, came up big. I think he, got just over 900 yards last year, a few touchdowns as well. And then obviously you got Quentin Johnson, as you mentioned, coming in as first round pick, wide receiver 4 for a team. It's a good situation to be in. There's lots of talent. And then we also drafted another wide receiver as well, Darius Davis out of TCU as well, who's going to be more of a kick return specialist. Will be depth wide receiver, speedy guy, gadget guy. And like I say, you mentioned DeAndre Carter. He's going to kind of give us an upgrade, hopefully, at the kick returner spot. And then, wide receiver 6, open, Guyton, as you mentioned. And then obviously you got John Hightower, who's been showing out in camp as well. So it's a good situation to be in. Like this year, lots of depth, lots of places to go with the ball for Justin Herbert. And as time moves on, like you say, Keenan Allen's getting up there in age. I hope that we never move on from him because he's kind of a Chargers legend at this point, and you won't want to see him playing another team's jersey. But these guys are expensive. Mike Williams is making north of $20 million APY. Same as Keenan Allen as well, and the Chargers are heavily over the salary cap for next year as it's projected to be. We're 60 or 50 million now in the red for next year. So it's not a great situation to be in. There's going to have to be some cap casualties. So, maybe the team moves on from Mike Williams and they've got that insurance policy in Quentin Johnson for next year. So, it's a good situation to be in this year, as I mentioned, and hopefully it's going to be moving on to continue to be a good situation because we've got this depth built out. So if we lose a player to a cap casualty, like I say, like one of these guys, then we can still kind of crack on and still have a good wide receiver core for Justin Herbert to use in the coming years.
Yeah, and of course, probably part of the reason why there has been a lack of real spending is because you paid Justin Herbert, who right now stands as the highest paid quarterback in history. Now we all know that changes seemingly every day. So for him, of course, with the rookie, but like rookie head coaches, you can get away with a few things, if things don't go right. But when you get the big contract like he's got and other quarterbacks got in the past, the pressure increases, and Herbert has yet to really. He hasn't yet won a playoff game. He hasn't yet done it really in a big game, and that really is the main takeaway from his first 3-4 years. People are calling him Philip Rivers 2.0. People are often referring back to his lack of a big sort of statement win and a big moment. And of course, we all know his one playoff game most recently fell with ended up with a massive collapse. So obviously, we'll get into Brandon Staley in a bit. But do you think that this can be the year, but potentially Herbert? I know we'll get into your record prediction at the end, but do you think this year Herbert can answer these big questions? Because I know when he first came into the league, he had these big. We went close with Mahomes, I think, on his first game, and then Brady, and but from memory, the last year especially, he lost the Chiefs, I believe, both times. He hasn't yet, or the team hasn't yet done it when it matters on a big game. You saw, we'll mention Staley later on, but the not making the playoffs in a couple of years ago, and that collapse in last year. So how important is it, especially with the new money he's been given and the import of money he's now receiving and the pressure that adds as the Chargers quarterback? Just do you think he can finally answer those critics and finally do it in the big game?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of layers to this really, and you've kind of maybe hinted at one of the biggest things, biggest factors in the fact that the pressure I would say is more sort of on Brandon Staley than Justin Herbert at the end of the day. We'll kind of get into the reasons in due course, I'd imagine. But the other layers that is obviously, with the contract coming down, especially it being such a large contract, like you say, we're probably just waiting for Joe Burrow to be extended for that to now be the second. Where I'm surprised that hasn't happened, but by the by. Pressure comes with that contract, right? People expect these superstar quarterbacks to drag their teams over the line. And, from the outside looking in, from certain perspectives, I guess you could say that, Justin Herbert hasn't had that success. But I would answer back and say that Justin Herbert's not been the problem in that respect. He has been almost superhuman especially in the past season just gone. He played with a fractured rib cartilage from week 3. He played without his left tackle. Receivers, as we've already mentioned, were going down. The Chargers obviously known for not having great health look, and that definitely had an effect. It had an effect on his play. Hopefully, this is the last podcast that I have to talk about Joe Lombardi, or can mention Joe Lombardi, because that was also a problem, in Alec Helen Moore's here and the new season starting. Hopefully we can move on from that. But it was definitely a factor. And I'm not trying to be a Justin Herbert apologist. And I'm just trying to, kind of see things with a wider perspective than maybe some others do. But Justin Herbert's not been the problem. He's, like I say, making plays all the time. He's effectiveness on third down, even fourth down. We know that Brandon Staley likes to go for it. I believe he's got a QB rating of over 110 on fourth down throughout his career. So that kind of says a lot. His primetime record is quite good. I think he has actually beaten the Chiefs a couple of times in Arrowhead as well, albeit one of those times wasn't against Mahomes. It was in a Week 18 game when I can't remember who their backup was, but their backup was playing. But he has, been in Arrowhead. That he's got that experience of winning in a hostile environment on the road and things like that. And then obviously the other factor is obviously the Jags playoff loss, the things that, the most recent thing. And, we know the NFL is such a what have you done for me lately league. And that's the thing that sticks in the neutral fans' mind in particular, that, that collapse happened. But again, I don't think Justin Herbert was the problem there. The Chargers got that lead and that was down to Justin Herbert as well. So we've got to, if we're going to ding him for kind of losing the lead, quote unquote, then we've got to give him credit for putting up the 27 points in the first place, right? Chargers lost that game because Michael Davis got hurt. And that's when the Jags started having a lot of success. The Jags won that game. And they won that game because the Chargers couldn't run the ball as well. And because of missed field goal as well. There was an opportunity to put on points. And that would have drawn it level. That's partly the reason why that game was lost as well. Obviously, it doesn't look good on anyone's resume on that team. And that is the case with Justin Herbert as well. He does need to win a playoff game. Like I said before, the pressure's on with the contract now, but the pressure's on all the players at the Chargers now, not just Justin Herbert. And we'll see as things move through the season. The Chargers have got plenty of primetime games moving forward, so hopefully he'll improve that record. But I suppose you've got to remember from the early parts of his career as well, he was playing on a poor team. That's why he was a sixth overall pick, right? So that first season under Anthony Lynn just wasn't good because that's who's his quarterback. His head coach, right? So you move into the new era with Brandon Staley as a rookie head coach that's got some teething pains, and then you move forward. Now that everyone's got the wings underneath them, hopefully, and then we can move forward and have a good season. But yeah, like I probably have to sound like Justin Herbert apologist. I don't think I should need to because he's a great quarterback. He deserves to be mentioned in the conversations with Mahomes, with Burrow, with Allen. I think it's those four right at the top table. So yeah, we'll kind of see. One of these things I'll probably come on to this later on when we're talking about records, things like that. I'm a positive Chargers fan. I'm a positive sports fan in general, but I'm trying really hard not to buy into any hype because the Chargers won the offseason far too many times in my time as a Chargers fan. So I'll believe it when they've won 10 games and I'll start to look forward to the playoffs when that happens.
yeah. I mean, it's one of the things that is the hope that kills you. So sometimes it's better to be,
Too much.
I think, somewhat in the middle. I don't think you can really I don't think it's good to be a fan who's going to season expecting, them to win 3 or 4 games. That just isn't healthy. Even as a realist, I think it's so. I think if you like, I always try to, as a Dolphins fan, I always try to sort of stick to thinking, we'll make the playoffs, we'll lose in the first round, anything more is a bonus. I think that probably should, unless you're a Chiefs fan or maybe back in the day Patriots fan, I think most fans of NFL teams that should be there. What they're hoping for, and I think that's because I think if you're going to every season think you're going to shout at the Cowboys fans, you think you're going to win, get to NFC Championship game and all that every year, you can't. It's never going to be a good season in your eyes. So I think it's good to be like that. But of course, the whole season may hinder on head coaching of Brandon Staley because it'll be his third season now in the league. The first 2 years, I don't think has been particularly what you thought, because if you look back at the first year, now some have defended the decision, but of course the last game against the Raiders, the decision to go for that timeout did seem to ultimately cost when the Raiders were seemingly, from what you've heard, going for the tie and all that and going to kneel and all that. And then the next season, we all saw what happened. Week 18, he played the starters and Mike Williams went down injured, and then you all saw what happened in the Jags game. So he's under a lot of pressure. And the third year seemingly is the time where a lot of coaches lose their jobs. That third year, that Black Monday sort of cull, a lot of third year coaches do get that chop. So for you, what's your take on Staley and how are you feeling on him going into what some people think could be his last season as a Chargers head coach?
Yeah, it went very well may be his last year as a Chargers coach because, like I said before, the pressure's on because you come in first year, maybe you get a bit of a pass because unless it's a dumpster fire every season, then why would the team hire you if they're not willing to give you at least a little bit of time? So you kind of go through then, and then as we said before, the season before last 12 months ago, the team invests in quote unquote his guys, the likes of Sebastian Joseph Day, Morgan Fox, bringing over JC Jackson, Khalil Mack comes over and trade. So then you're hoping for a step up in the defense, right? With all these guys coming over, guys who can play his defense, his style of defense, because you part of the reason why they got a pass, or he got a pass, should I say, the coaching staff got a pass in the first season because they didn't really have the horses to run his defense, and it was quite a departure from the Gus Bradley system that so kind of we all know and love from maybe 10 years ago in Seattle, and this sort of dissemination of that around the league with the likes of Dan Quinn, etc. And that isn't what the Vic Fangio Brandon Staley defense is all about. It's completely different, defense with different body types required. So, you bring in this free agency money, but the defense doesn't really improve. Obviously, the run defense is like embarrassing, which hasn't improved into year three either. So there are big questions that have remained all the way through when money has been invested. I believe I'm right in saying this. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I believe that in terms of cash outlay this season, the Chargers have the most expensive defense in the NFL. So it's time to put up, right? Because as much as I lambast Joe Lombardi and the Chargers fan base has lambasted him, the offense was quite good in his first season. I think they were fifth overall as an offense in Joe Lombardi's first year. And then last year, I think they dropped down to about 15th or 14th. And in Staley's defense, the head coach of the team, he's down in the low 20s, which isn't great. And the run defense is embarrassing. So pass defense isn't a problem, but run defense has been a massive problem. That needs to change this year. If that doesn't change, if the Chargers don't make the playoffs or don't even win a playoff game, I'd say maybe even the bars could be set that high, especially after, as we said, the loss that they suffered to the Jags last season. If the game isn't pushed and the team isn't pushed beyond where it's gone to, then you think, well, we're going backwards, and why are we sticking with this guy who can't put a good defense together over the whole season? Because he's a great game planner, and obviously, as a Dolphins fan, maybe we can talk about that shortly when we come on to the week one. We saw what happened last year with the Dolphins. It was a great game plan and shut down the Dolphins offense. Brandon Staley's got that in his locker. He did it against the 49ers as well with, an injury hit roster as well on the defensive side of the ball last year. But it's not worked over the whole season. And that's what we need. We need that to happen. And if we get to a point where Kellen Moore comes in and we are, I'm not even going to say a top 10 offense, even though that's certainly possible. Say we're like the 11th best offense in the league, but we have even like an average defense. With the talent level there, that's going to make the playoffs. It's going to win a lot of games, even with quite a tough schedule. So that's what we're aiming for as a bare minimum, and that should lead on to playoffs, winning a playoff game potentially, depending on who we're matching up against. And then, as Brandon Staley says, as long as you're in the dance, then you've got a chance.
Yeah, I agree totally, and I think that if you've got Herbert and Eckler, and a receiver room involving Mike Williams, Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnson, who you'll be hoping that on paper as good as he is in college. That's a good offensive trio. That's a good, and also added Gerald Everett at tight end as well. And you got the likes of, I know he's getting older, but Joey Bosa on defense, Derwin James as well. There's some good players in that team, and I think that it's a good roster. But I think first of all, like ourselves these days, you're stung with a tough division. You've got the Super Bowl champion team who's had hosted five straight AFC championship games. Mahomes never played a road game in the playoffs, and the Broncos could be good at the Wilsons. I think, like ourselves, I think we both wish we were in the AFC South rather than
for sure. Absolutely. And the other thing as well, Andy, is that in my time as a Chargers fan, I think this might be the best defensive line that we've had. Starting five wise. So everything's there. The whole and this is kind of the problem, and this is where I kind of sound like I'm going to talk myself into the hype again. Because on paper it all looks fantastic, right? The roster is great from start to finish. There's maybe not as much depth as you'd like, but there's a salary cap, so you've got to have some shortcomings somewhere. But starting positions look good across the defensive line, and as we've already talked about the offensive skill players and the quarterback. Like I said, the defense needs to step up, but on paper again, it's a good defense with the star players that you've named. So it's all looking up, but like I said, they just need to prove it on the field over the next few months.
Yeah, I agree totally. And it starts in week one against Dolphins, which will be the first game in our win-loss-tie segment. So if you are listening to this podcast for the first time or watching on YouTube for the first time, we ask every fan to predict their team's record by going through each game and answering win, loss, or tie. Now, week one is at home to Dolphins. Now, you mentioned the game last year. I was actually at that game last year. Well, for most of it, I had to get basically, it was my last day touring America, and I booked it, and then they changed the time to a later time, so I had to get my flight home. So I had to, I rushed at half time, got back to my flight, and then got delayed by 5 hours. So I could have stayed for the whole game in the end. But it is what it is. And I did miss sadly that Tyreek Hill touchdown, but I did see the crazy one. When it fell on the floor and he picked it up and ran about 56 yards. That was an amazing experience, because I had Chargers fans in my face the entire game. When they scored their touchdown, and I got to have a little bit back. It was me and about two of the Dolphins fans in the entire section. It was all just Chargers fans giving me stick basically. So it was really nice to have that one moment where I could give it back.
I'm sure it was all good humoured anyway.
Oh yeah, definitely. There was no, unlike our football, there was no real, what's the word? There's no real antagonizingness to it. It's all friendly banter, and there's a reason why you wear the same different jerseys in the same end. We can't for a reason. So yeah, it's all in good jest. But you do start week one in that game at home against Dolphins. Win, loss, or tie?
I'm actually might surprise you here. I'm going to say a loss. I
Okay.
feel like the Dolphins owe us one from last year. Coming out week one, I feel like Mike McDaniel will have some tricks up his sleeve. He won't like the way that loss went against him, because it felt like Brandon Staley got the better of him in terms of their duel between the play callers, so to speak, on both sides of the ball. And I don't think I think that he might have some things cooked up in terms of plays and things like that. And it's always difficult to kind of, you get a beat on teams when they're week one, right? Because you've not got any tape from this season on them. So they can be cooking up things for a few weeks now and ready for that week one game. And yeah, I think the Dolphins will take that one.
Well, I'm actually going to be in Vegas that day. I mean, it'll be
Nice.
a rearranged 2020 holiday that never happened for obvious reasons. I'm actually sadly in LA day after that game ends, but 1:25 p.m. That's going to be something I'm going to really try my best to try and watch, because I'm going with three of the friends, and only one of them's an NFL fan. He's a Colts fan, so we'll try and find a time to watch it. But I'm hoping
I'm sure you'll be able to.
Yeah, I'll find the time, even if I go on my own or go with just my one other mate. Even if I have to miss the other games, the late game and the early game, I'll make my mission, because that game should hopefully, like it was last year, be box office, be lights out. Because when you got Austin Eckler, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Justin Herbert, Quentin Johnson, Joey Bosa, Christian Wilkins, and it's a lot of good players on both sides of the ball, both teams. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it should be electric and great. Well, what a great way to start the season, I must admit. Week 2 is your first road game of the season, on the road to the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, I'm going to go for a win. I recently wrote in the touchdown. I did the Floors and Ceilings, which is a series that I've been doing recently. And this week I did the AFC South as well. And I had pretty positive reports to say about all the other three teams aside from the Titans this week. So yeah, I'm fairly confident that the Titans just don't really know what they are. And I feel like the Chargers will be able to have the better of them and bring it back to 500 after 2 weeks.
Well, actually, I wrote an article for the touchdown as well. I've been doing it for all the divisions, ranking the quarterbacks from 1 to 4. And I think I still had Tannehill second, because you got two rookies in there, and Stroud and Richardson. But I don't think it'll be long. I think if they go, if they progress, if they develop into what we think they're going to be, Stroud and Richardson, I can see whether it's Tannehill, Levis, or Willis, Titans quarterback being bottom. Unless they go out and get someone again, they'll probably be the bottom quarterback for a few years. But they got Derrick Henry, so that's all that matters.
It has for them, hasn't it, recently? Yeah. But yeah, hopefully we can short the run defense for that clash. But yeah, I think we'll have enough for them anyway.
Week 3 is another road game, but this time against the Vikings.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of maybe come across a little bit pessimistic here, but I think the Vikings will take that. They've got an excellent home record. And they've got a really good team. Again, a little bit a team who's in a bit of flux with kind of how they want to go through things. Their GM saying that they're having a competitive rebuild earlier on in the season, which is a bit strange. But yeah, I think they'll take that one, considering that it is a home game for the Vikings. I think it was the other way around. I might have had a Chargers win, but considering it's Vikings, I think they'll be narrowly favoured and will probably come out on top of a maybe really close game, maybe even down to like a field goal or something like that.
Well, speaking of home games, week 4, you are at home against the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, a win. I'd win for this. It's quite an easy one for me. I think in my mind that I feel like just going back to the division. I feel like as you mentioned before, the Broncos could be a little bit better this season than they were last, but I feel like the Raiders are quite obviously the fourth best team in the AFC West at the moment. It's been a home game. They'll want to kind of bounce back after what I've got as a loss to the Vikings. So yeah, I'm going to say that this is a win, and unlike a lot of Chargers win, maybe quite a comfortable one as well going into the bye week.
Yeah, I mean, you got week by week and week 5. I mean, that is for me the worst one to have. I think the
Yeah.
first one for me is a week 14 bye, week 13 bye. That's the ideal bye in my opinion. So you have that week 5 by 4, week 6 clash at home to the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, this will be a really good clash. Obviously, Kellen Moore going back to his well against his old team. It will also be in LA, but yeah, I think the Chargers will win this one. Coming out of the bye, they'll have some self scouting to do from those two losses against the Minnesota Vikings and the Miami Dolphins. But yeah, I think that they can take this against the Cowboys again. I think it'll be quite a close one. It'll probably be quite high scoring if both offenses play well. But yeah, I can see them taking this in prime time on Monday Night Football against the Cowboys at home.
So then week 7, you're on the road to Arrowhead, taking on the Kansas City
Mhm.
Chiefs.
See, I'm gonna say that we're gonna win this one.
Oh, I
I
like that.
feel like as much as I've maybe given the Chargers a couple of pessimistic shouts early on, I feel like we can really bounce back and take another one here. I feel like we, as the rivals of the Chiefs, I feel like we play them as close as any team does. Maybe aside from the Bengals, obviously we've got a really good record against them, especially in the playoffs. But I feel like, especially in division, we play them really, really tough, and I feel like the games that we play against each other come down to one or two plays, and I feel like it's just going to go this way again, and we'll go into Arrowhead and get that victory.
Fantastic. And then you mentioned Brighton before. The other one comes in week 8, the late game against the Bears at home.
Yeah, again, like the Bears are in a bit of a rebuild, aren't they? So this is one that if the Chargers do have playoff aspirations, which sure they should do, it's got to be another victory, hasn't it? Because like I say, it's two teams at different ends of the spectrum, different timelines, different stages of their journey, and yeah, we should be looking to take this one again on the prime time against the Bears.
And I believe that'll be the Sunday night football clash as well.
Yes,
Yeah, should be. And I think you've got it again, another prime time in week 9, which I believe is again same time slot, or maybe it's the
it's a Monday night
Thursday or
football, I
Monday
think,
game
against the
or something.
Jets. Yeah,
Against the Jets on the road in New York.
yeah, this will be a tough one. Obviously, the Jets could be rolling by this stage. Obviously, under Aaron Rodgers, they've got a really good roster. Obviously, the good times are. Well, I will say coming back, I guess they have had some good times in the past, the Jets. But yeah, I think this could be a loss, especially on the road. It's a long way, obviously, from LA to New York. So yeah, we'll say a loss for this one.
Okay, and then week 10 is a home game against the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, I reckon this will be a really, really close game. Obviously, the Lions are very much in vogue at the moment. But I think the Chargers will come out on top. I think the Chargers are a little bit better, than the Lions at the moment. They've got a better quarterback, and at home again, a little bit like what I said with the Vikings game there. This might be a close one that's maybe by a score, a field goal, very very close. But home advantage should just about eke the Chargers over the line, I would say.
Hey, then you travel to Lambeau Field to take on the Packers on the road.
Yeah, I'm going to go for a win for this one. This will be a tough road game, obviously a tough place to go, but the Packers no longer have that fear factor now that they don't have Aaron Rodgers under center. Obviously, I've already said that we're going to lose to Aaron Rodgers earlier in the season, so kind of shows that maybe this one's flipped around with that quarterback exchange that's gone ahead that trade. So yeah, I'm going to say they're gonna have a win in Lambeau, and it'll be a close one. I don't think it'll be a walkover by any stretch of the imagination. The Packers have still got a good defense, but offensively they're not going to be as strong as they have been over the past 20 years.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, I think it's going to be. I think Love will succeed, but I just don't know whether it'll be in his first year starting. Um, week 12, though, your final game of November is a home game against the Baltimore Ravens.
Yes, there's another prime time game. The Ravens I think are going to be really good this season. um like we've said, we've got two tough divisions, but the toughest in the AFC might be the AFC North, um because every team is good, and the Ravens are going to be good as well. I really like the hire of Todd Monken to go hand in hand with Lamar Jackson over there. And the defense is always going to play really tough. So yeah, I'm going to say it's a loss in prime time against Baltimore because, like I say, they're two really well matched teams, but Baltimore just going to come out on top. Again, coin flips in the NFL is such a thing, isn't it? Where these close games just come down to one or two players. I think this could be another one, but it just goes the other way.
So week 13 is a brutal one for locals. 10 a.m. if you're living in LA, on the road to the New England Patriots.
Yeah, this one I can see being an absolute grind for the Chargers. I don't think that the Patriots will have a great deal on offense, but their defense is going to be really, really good. I can see there's been a low scoring affair where the Chargers just about eke it out.
Hey, week 10, sorry, not week 10, week 14 is a home game against the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, the Broncos, like I say, as much as I just mentioned a moment ago, that they're probably going to be a little bit better. I can see the Chargers taking this one at home, um, which might be a different story to the Week 17 game that we'll come on to in due course. But yeah, I think that they'll win this one in Week 14.
And then week 15 is a road game. You're traveling to Vegas, take on the Raiders.
Yeah, Thursday night football, I believe. So yeah, I say I can't really roll back on much what I've said earlier. It might be on the road, but I don't think the Raiders are going to be much match for the Chargers this season. I think we'll sweep them and therefore take the victory.
Fantastic. And then December the 23rd, so not quite, had a lot of teams recently where they're playing Christmas Eve. Your one seems to be, actually might be early hours of Christmas Eve. It's 5 p.m. in their time, so probably the 1 a.m. game on Christmas Eve for UK fans
Yeah.
at home to the Buffalo Bills.
Yes, it's also going to be a really tough one. This could have that random factor, right? If it's snowing or something like that. Oh no, no, sorry, I'm talking nonsense. It's in LA, isn't it?
No in
So
LA,
never mind.
that'll be something.
Even yeah, that's not gonna happen, is it? Yeah, I still don't think this is gonna go the way of the Chargers. The Buffalo Bills are just too strong of a team at the moment. Unless injuries hit, the Bills, I just think they're just a little bit better than Chargers at the moment. They're in that just tear up with the Chiefs and the Bengals probably in the AFC at the moment. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go for a loss for this one.
Okay, and then week 17, New Year's Eve, so 1:25 local time, 9:25 p.m. if you're watching in the UK, at the Denver Broncos.
So yeah, I'm gonna actually go against tradition here, and yeah, I'm gonna have to say that the Chargers are probably gonna lose this one. They don't tend to win in Mile High at all. It's one of those things that where they just seem to have a hoodoo over them. Again, this one actually could be snowing. Going back to my earlier point, it could be one of those random games. But yeah, I just can't really. It's like the Chiefs. The Chiefs are the best team in the AFC West, and that's just like it's going to happen until it doesn't, sort of thing. And the Chargers are probably going to lose every time they go to Mile High until they don't. So yeah, I'm going to have to predict a loss with this one as well.
And then finally, you mentioned the Chiefs. You play them at home in week 18.
So this will kind of depend on whether the Chiefs are going to be resting starters, whether the Chargers are going to be in that position, whether how it all shakes out. So this is a very, very difficult one to call. I'm going to go on the positive side of positivity. I'm going to say we're going to sweep the Chiefs as well. It's got to happen at some point, right? It might not mean that we win the division, but it might put us in a really strong chance to do so. So yeah, let's go for it. Let's say we're going to beat the Chiefs. We're going to sweep the Chiefs on this occasion, and yeah, really go into the playoffs on a higher, hopefully.
So that means that you will be finishing with, according to yourself, a 12-5 record, which
Okay.
you assume from that would get you in the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe
I
at a
mean,
stretch as a division winner, but if not, as a wildcard team. So if that does happen, there's a bonus prediction. How far will you go in the playoffs?
well, I mean, considering we swept the Chiefs in that one, I actually had I must have miscalculated. I thought we were going to be on 11 wins, but never mind. If we won 12 games and we beat the Chiefs, I think we'd probably be the number one seed, maybe number two seed. So, we're going to have a home playoff game. So you're going to say probably should win that. So maybe the AFC Championship game.
Hey, I like that. I mean, that'll be definitely progress. I mean, you've
I'm definitely buying into the hype. I mean, it's taken us like half an hour, but I'm definitely doing it now, right?
actually, I do apologize. Actually, I did get it wrong. It is 11-6, not
Okay.
12. So yeah, that changes completely what I was going to say next. Because I had you originally as one of our most optimistic fans. So
Sounds
five
about right for me.
only 5 fans have had more wins than 12 predicted left for their own teams. But now you're 11-6. So you're probably just below the top 10. So we've got quite a few fans on 11-6. You now are sixth fan to be 11-6 prediction, but you're
Okay.
only 10 fan. You are our 32nd guest and our 31st guest and our 30th team we've done so far. and 29 teams so far, and yeah, only
It's been a long series.
I know, yeah. Even I'm getting mixed up my numbers here. That's how long it's been. Yeah, only 10 fans ahead of you. One actually, in Rory Joe Daniels. He had his
Oh
Bengals
yeah,
going 13-4.
I can see that. To be fair, Rowan knows his stuff as well, so I'll definitely
Yeah,
go along with that. Yeah, I mean, the 11-12 win thing. I guess it depends whether we're winning the division, I guess. But I think the Chargers' ceiling could, well, it could be winning the Super Bowl, I guess. But I mean, a realistic ceiling would probably be to make it to the AFC Championship game. So yeah, I'm going to stick with that. To be honest with you, regardless.
I think even making the divisional round is probably a progress because I can't think when you
Oh,
last won
absolutely.
a game. Was it the 2018 season when you last won, or did you lose your first game in playoffs against the
Yeah,
Patriots?
we
Did you
no
beat
no.
them?
So yeah, we won the wild card round against the Ravens and
Right,
then
yeah.
lost to the Patriots that season. Yeah, that was the last time we won a playoff game.
Wow, it's a long. I mean, longer than us, but still a long time. Sure, I hate the fact that the Detroit Lions have got this long record of being the longest team without a playoff win, and they could do it this year, and we're next.
Oh,
We're
absolutely.
we've won since I think 2000 or 2001. We last won a playoff game, so it's
Mm.
I'm sort of as long as we win a playoff game, I want the Lions to do well. But if they do win and we don't win a playoff game, we're gonna have that on our heads until we do otherwise. So that's gonna be not very
Oh
nice.
wow, yeah, that's a wooden spoon to avoid, right?
Yeah. But that is where we'll end this podcast for today. So first of all, thank you Lee, for coming on and joining the podcast today.
I appreciate it. Appreciate you having me on, Andy. Thank you very much. I've enjoyed myself.
No problem at all. You mentioned you work like myself for the touchdown. What's there to look forward to for those listening at home that want to check out your work? What can they look forward to on your social media, and what kind of work are you looking to do?
But yeah, I'm gonna be heading up the NFL team at Touchdown, my first season with you guys. So yeah, really looking forward to kind of getting into the weeds of the season, like I said before. And I've been covering floors and ceilings pre-season, but that series will finish just before the season starts. And in season, hopefully going to be just looking at just some players, just some things that stand out, some plays that stand out. Just diving into whatever I want, really. I mean, kind of the NFL season can offer you so many avenues that I just kind of want to dive in. I like to do tape study kind of things, so yeah, I'll definitely be looking at doing that sort of thing. And yeah, if anyone wants to check out my Chargers work, I write for Bolt Beat, part of the fan-sided group. So yeah, at BB_Chargers. So yeah, you can find me there, and at Wakefield90 is my personal Twitter account.
Great stuff, and that's where we'll end it. So this has been the Across the Pod podcast Chargers season preview, and we'll see you guys for our next season preview, which will be the Tennessee Titans. See you then.